because in that tension that you hold, you will lead change. You will create deeper impact. And if that means not being fucking liked, then so be it. It is part of the journey. You have to be willing to be the villain in someone else's story, because true leadership means you're gonna trigger people.
You know the vibe. All spice, no sugar. Let's get into it.
Welcome back to another episode on the Don't Sugarcoat It podcast. I'm excited to share a story with you, and I know that this may ruffle some feathers and this may trigger some people, and you're welcome. I have realized that in order to facilitate deep transformation, that it is necessary to accept not being liked. I have realized in order to be a true leader that I must go first, and with that comes copying projections from good and bad, positive and negative. And even bigger than that, I have realized that in holding the mirror and holding projections, that it's actually okay for me to be the villain in someone else's story. And I accept that and I honor that. And I also know that being the villain in someone else's story is giving them the pieces that they need to achieve the transformation. Now, this may not make sense right now. So I want to share with you a story. But before I do that, I want you to think of anyone who has ever triggered you in the past, of anyone who has ever fucked you off, honestly. And how have you grown from that experience? There's a moment that I think about when I think back a few years, and I was in a room where I was being facilitated through deep transformation, and the facilitator actually fucked me off. Like actually genuinely pissed me off. And I held so much like fuck you energy at this person. And in the moment, I was like, oh, like it frustrated me and made me angry. And I fully rejected what was being shown and mirrored back to me. I was like, no, that's not me. No, that's not me. And now, having gone through so many years and consistently growing and evolving, and now even facilitating, running my own rooms, I think back to that person and that moment, and I am so fucking grateful. I'm so thankful for how the facilitator held the projection of me, held my projections, held the tension, because it gave me this fire in my belly, this fuck you energy that allowed me to fully step into and claim more parts of myself. And I didn't realize it in the moment, but that was a gift that I was given for me to, instead of people please, instead of mold myself to fit a particular archetype, it was a moment for me to take deeper responsibility for who I am, to hold a boundary, to honor myself, to trust myself, and to claim my power. And that was a catalyst in my personal development, in my growth. That moment was a catalyst, a pivotal piece in my journey that allowed me to basically become the person I am today. That was a piece of my journey that I look at and think, wow, thank you. I look at that facilitator and I have so much reverence and respect and love for them for holding that tension. That truly shows me the level of leadership, embodiment, and integrity that that person had to hold that projection whilst I was going through the fuck you energy. Because if they had not held that, I would have crumbled back into my old patterns, old habits, and probably still be the same person I was 3 years ago when I was in that room. Now I see that person with so much love and respect, and I'm like, wow, that takes so much embodiment, so much leadership, so much integrity to hold that for someone else. Like, what a gift. And recently I learned that there are two pieces when it comes to giving. When you give someone a gift, two pieces play out. There is the receiving and the giving. So in the moment, think of like you giving a Christmas present to someone. There is the energy of you giving, and there is the energy of the person receiving. And think about when you buy someone a gift and they're like, reject it. They're like, oh no, you didn't need to do that. Like, I don't need that. And they're like trying to give it back to you, and it makes you feel like shit. And you're like, no, fucker, like I bought this for you because I want you to have it. So please receive my gift. And in that moment when you are trying to give someone something and you're like, I love you so much that I want to give this to you. And they're like, no, I don't want it. You're like, well, fuck you. And it actually makes you feel like shit, even though they are just trying to be good person or people pleaser energy. So in order for a gift to be unwrapped, there are two energies that play out, giving and receiving. And it's so important that you are always open to giving and equally receiving. So bringing this towards being the villain in someone else's story. When it comes to deep facilitation and deep transformation, if you are someone who wants to create big shifts, to lead a legacy, to create a movement, to facilitate transformation in others and impact people on a great scale, you have to be willing to accept being the villain in someone else's story. And like I shared with my own experience in the past, the facilitator who accepted being the villain in my story allowed me to transform. If you are not being the mirror or holding the mirror or copying projections from your clients or from social media or from your audience, you're literally just babysitting comfort zones. And the number one rule in personal development is that nothing happens in the comfort zone. Like constant, stuck, overwhelm, no change happens in the comfort zone. And that's cool. If you just want to continue to repeat the circle and the cycle of what your client is experiencing and what you're also facilitating, then be my guest and hold the babysitting role. Or you can step into true integrity of a leader, someone who holds the mirror, who holds the projection. Because in that tension that you hold, you will lead change. You will create deeper impact. And if that means not being fucking liked, then so be it. It is part of the journey. You have to be willing to be the villain in someone else's story. Because true leadership means you're gonna trigger people. You're gonna trigger projections. And if you're scared of that, then you'll never really create change. You'll never really create change within yourself and change within others. This is about protecting not only the energetics and the integrity of yourself and what you're here to do, but also for others. So I want to share with something, because I didn't really learn this lesson until I actually had to be the villain in someone else's story. And this has been a huge initiation into my next level of leadership. And I feel like this year has been a quantum leap and a quantum entanglement of constant growth and evolution and change, and the universe consistently presenting platters to me of like, here, how much work have you actually done? We're going to test you. Here's your little universal assignment. And I have always received that with acceptance. I mean, through the beginning of the year, I've had multiple reels now go viral and have received a lot of hate and a lot of comments of shit from shit people. And in the past, like a past version of me would get so like caught up in that because I never wanted to be a disruptor. And I've in the past been someone who would fall into people-pleasing habits and behaviors. And those lessons at the beginning of the year taught me to regulate projections. And it taught me the law of polarity, like the more projection that you cop, the more love you'll also receive. And also it allowed me to regulate my nervous system in the capacity of receiving that level of hate. It's just so interesting when you are getting, like when you're visibly being shown to the world. And I've had reels that have gotten millions of views and just the comments that come into the section of like constant projections and hate. And in the past, like I said, like a past version of me would get really rattled by that. And from the journey that I've been on, it taught me to regulate myself in copying those projections. The next piece after that was at the beginning of the year, I received a letter stating that I was being sued for trademark infringement. And that was I was rattled with that because I was like, what? I didn't even know this was a thing. I didn't even know this person existed. I didn't even know this was a thing. Like, how the hell is this even happening in my world right now? And this person tried to sue me for almost $400,000 for trademark infringement. And it took me on a journey of one, deeper responsibility and ownership for my business. And it put me on this path of actually trademarking my business and my And it taught me so much about the energetic integrity of the business and also how to protect yourself in legal matters, etc. Also, side note, during this episode, I have a timer up the top, and every time I've looked at it, it's been an angel number so far. I looked at it like 5 minutes and 55 seconds, and I just looked at it and it was 11 minutes and 11 seconds. I'm like, oh my God, this fucking episode. And I literally said to my Caleb, who's recording this podcast with me, I was like, I'm actually nervous doing this podcast. And here I am just like looking up the time and just seeing all of these fucking angel numbers. So clearly this message needs to be shared and you need to hear this. So fucking the universe, my spirit guides have been playing games with me recently, and this is a test. This is a universal test. So how do you face the test? How do you receive the test? Side quest. Oh my God, I just looked at it again. It was 11:55. What the fuck? What the fuck? All right. Anyway, beginning of this year, someone tried to sue me for $400,000, and that taught me so many things. And I learned how to regulate my nervous system again in the projections. And it taught me how to become a better leader, how to hold more integrity for my business, how to expand my capacity to still maintain the calm within the chaos. And those teachings have allowed me to be so much more in integrity and hold bigger boundaries, and also cop projections. It has led me to now this acceptance of being the villain in someone else's story, because that is a gift to them. So in one of my rooms, and this has been challenged to me, in one of my rooms, I had to make the difficult decision of removing a attendee from the event. And this was a universal test for me to really lean into how I can honor the boundary, hold the capacity and hold the tension, because I know that removing someone from a room is going to create tension. And I'm okay to be the villain in that person's story, because I know that by me holding that tension, knowing that that experience for that attendee in them being removed from the space is giving them the gift of how they can connect deeper to themselves. I did this out of a place of holding the integrity of the room, of the collective room, because there was a moment where I realized if I didn't intervene, it was preventing the breakthrough of every single person in that room. And I knew that it was also an edge, because I tell you what, my ego was fucking fighting with me. My past people pleaser tendencies was questioning like, oh no, what if they're gonna hate on me and project on me and talk shit about me and blah, blah, blah. And also I knew in that moment that that was an opportunity for me to step deeper into the level of leadership that I am creating, because I know that in order to facilitate deep transformation, I have to hold that tension. And this, in that moment, was holding the transformation for that attendee and also the room as a collective, because I had to hold that mirror. I had to hold that mirror for everyone, and knowing that every single person who experienced and witnessed that was being triggered in a different perspective. And I knew all of those things. And I bring it back to that was me holding and protecting the integrity of the room. And I know that as a facilitator, it is my role and it is my responsibility to protect the energy of the room and honor the transformation that people step into that room, opening themselves up to receive. And this is something that I always preface when people come into my space. You will get exactly what you need in this moment for you to journey to your next level. That might not look like you expect it to, but I guarantee that if you open yourself up to receiving deep transformation, it will happen, because I am okay to hold that tension and hold that mirror and cop being the villain in your story, if that means that you get anchored into your next level of leadership. And I realize the importance of holding boundaries over holding popularity, of holding mirrors over people pleasing, of holding transformation over approval. Because in that moment, I could have allowed myself to fold to this person by seeking approval or people pleasing or wanting to be liked by everyone. And I knew that by doing that, I was cutting them off from their own transformation. I was cutting the room off from their own transformation. And I was also cutting myself off from becoming an embodied leader. And my willingness to hold that projection was the catalyst of their growth, whether this person sees it now or not. My willingness to hold that projection and be the villain in their story is the catalyst of their growth. And how do I know this? Because I've experienced it myself. I know that when I think back to the past, in the moment where I have been projected and fucked off by a facilitator, I now thank them with so much love and reverence and respect for thank you for holding that tension. Thank you for holding that projection, because it allowed me to step into more of me. And by me stepping into more of myself and choosing myself and holding that boundary and choosing to be strong within my worth and in my integrity, it began the unfolding of who I am today. So thank you. I say thank you to the villain. I say thank you for those who lead with conviction and understand that in their evolution, they will cop projection. I see this in my mentor. I see this in industry leaders. Like, think of Tony Robbins, like the amount of shit that he would have copped in his journey. Yet he holds the reverence of being the villain in other people's stories, because he knows by being that person, he will change millions of people's lives. No leader is universally loved. No true leader is universally loved, that is. And because the truth is, and what I've realized in this journey is, by experiencing that and by me being the villain in my in my own journey, the facilitator being the villain in my story saved me. It saved me from repeating my past patterns. It saved me from no growth. It saved me from being stuck and staying mediocre. So I know that for anyone who has ever felt the projection or viewed me as a villain in their story, that I know that this is like, you're welcome. You're welcome, because I know how shifting this energy is. And it's so interesting because I think to one of my clients who recently came to one of my events, and she's been working with me for almost a year, and she constantly says to me, fuck you, trigger the fuck out of me. Fuck you, trigger the fuck out of me. And not from a way of being the villain in her story. I mean, potentially maybe at some point I was a villain in her story. But she looked at me in the way of like, God, like, you are the gift. Like, this trigger is the gift because it allows me to see all of me. By you triggering the fuck out of me, I realize the only reason why you trigger me in that way is because I'm seeing deeper parts of me reflected back to me that I haven't fully owned yet. So that's an invitation to view being activated or triggered by somebody else is, what part of you are you yet to claim? What part of you are you still ignoring? What actual part of you do you get fucked off about them in the first place? Because that is actually just a piece of you that you are yet to integrate into yourself. And I promise you, the moment that you choose to fully integrate that and embody it and own it, irrespective of what other people will think, feel, and say, like, I'm okay with that, because I have so much self-love and self-conviction, and I know what I'm here to do. And I know that I have led so many women into deep transformation, and I know that I am the gift, and so are you. So are you. So if you are copying projections right now, see how you are gifting this person an opportunity to shift and be the catalyst in their journey. So I invite you to look at where you're still keeping yourself small, where you're still allowing your ego to people please for the hopes of to be liked. Because if you are constantly chasing the popularity, like, this is not some fucking popularity contest. This is about truly owning you, all avenues of you, and being okay to remove people out of your rooms, to show up and call out your opinion, to cancel a client container because you feel it's out of integrity. Like, there are so many pieces here that you actually get to choose how you show up and how you play the game. And the deeper that you can accept that, and I am accepting this so deeply, and I thank so many parts of my journey this year have been testing me to facilitate myself into deeper acceptance of who I am and the fact that, yes, I do trigger people. And it's interesting because I never actually thought I did. I was like, oh no, people don't fucking get triggered by me. And it's been recently shown and mirrored back to me that I fucking do. Which I think is hilarious. I'm like, what am I triggering people about? And also then there's moments where I'm 100% people, you know, saying shit about me online. I'm like, cool, amazing, you're fucking welcome. Like you're fucking welcome that I'm creating that much energetic shift within you that is actually for once allowing you to step up and share your voice and to claim yourself. That's a fucking gift. So I'm given, babes. Are you receiving is the question. And this is really interesting because I recently was also in a personal development room, and one of the attendees in the room kept saying to me like, fuck, the reason why I haven't worked with you is because you trigger the fuck out of me and you actually annoy me with how you show up in the world, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, I actually never knew that this was a thing, because I have done the work within myself to fully own and take responsibility of how I'm showing up in the world and to mute out the noise. And that is my power. And I want you to have that power too. And if you desire to lean into this part of you, I know by now that there's probably something in your field. If you're listening to this episode, there's something in your field right now that you aren't fully claiming, or you're still dancing around the subject, or you're still kind of molding yourself to the conversations that you're having, or you're still playing a particular archetype, or you're still wearing a particular mask to fit into the room that you're in, even though you know deep down that for you to fully choose yourself, you would have to show up a different way. And that might come with people saying things, people talking shit, copying projections. You have one or two choices here. You can either allow those fears to override courage and keep you where you're at, or you can either choose to show up to the game, show up to the universal assignment, because I know the moment that you do that, you will traverse into your next level. And your next level, babe, there is so much more available to you. That's where things really start to work in your favor. And it's not about hurting other people. It's about owning yourself. Because if you are so worried about hurting other people, the only thing you're actually doing is hurting yourself. Whatever you're fearful of creating to someone else is actually what you're just doing to yourself. So if you're people pleasing out of the fear of hurting other people, you're just hurting yourself. So I invite you to look and see how you can fully own all of you, how you can be okay with copying the projections. One of my one-on-one clients recently experienced this where one of her reels went viral. It's got about 600,000 views on it now, and she's copying all of this hate, all of these projections. And she has just said to me like, thank you so much for going first, because it was only 4 months ago where I went through that. And she was able to witness me lead myself through all of this hating, copying, projections, and all of this fucking shit. And it taught her in that moment. She's like, wow, I didn't realize it at the time, but you were just showing me my own evolution and my path. And by you leading yourself with so much grace, it allowed me to regulate how easy it is to still show up in the world even when people are throwing rocks at you. Because here's the thing, if people are throwing rocks at you in one direction, guess what's going to happen in the other direction? People are going to throw you money. And if you are paying attention to all the people throwing rocks at you, you are ignoring all of the money that's getting thrown at you. So if you could pivot your attention away from where the rocks are being thrown, where the people-pleasing energy is being given and dispersed, and pivot towards, oh wow, there's so many people over here that literally want to throw money at me and love me. That's the power. That's the fucking magic of the law of polarity and the law of balance, because these pieces are always going to play out. It just depends on where you are facing and what you're paying attention to. So you're welcome. I'm so happy to be the villain in your story, babes. Thank you. I hope you loved this episode, and I will see you on the next episode of the Don't Sugarcoat It podcast.